I'm going to return again to the whole issue of Anthropocene and culture and how the two interact and whether ask the question whether they interact in a really sort of searching, intellectually rigorous and emotionally healthy way, or whether they interact in a somewhat defensive, hypocritical way. Whether we like it or not, we are entering a period of crisis. The warming that's taking place in the Arctic shows no signs of slowing down. And even if it does slow down temporarily, we've clearly crossed some kind of threshold. And so what's going to happen now is a new form of anxiety is going to enter mass consciousness. And when we experience extreme weather or unusual weather events, we will always wonder whether global warming is really having a direct impact, whether melt and thawing of the glaciers and permafrost is in turn affecting global weather patterns, whether the warming of the ocean is affecting weather patterns, whether declining fish stocks are the result partly of warming, whether desertification and those sorts of things are also the effect of warming, and whether seasonal rain change, whether those patterns changing is an effect of global warming. This is the way we're going to start thinking about things. It's going to have an effect on all of us. And ultimately, it's going to bring in a form of perhaps a kind of Puritanism, but also a kind of morality of saving and consuming less and so forth. Now, the issue that I want to dwell on is the role that publishing plays in all this. I have spoken to many people in the world of publishing, either writers or publishers, and asked what can be done. And I have found that I've tended to either get a reaction of defensiveness, people changing the topic and saying that ebooks are worse. Well, ebooks are not worse. Or people, and of course, you don't need to read on ebooks. Most of the time now, these days, people read on tablets and smartphones, which they have anyway. Or whether we should not focus on publishing and sort of focus more on different industries, for example, the airline industry. Unfortunately, deforestation is a big factor, and apparently now, one argument that's being made that's gotten quite a bit of popular traction is that if we plant 1 trillion trees, that will absorb the extra carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and we will perhaps be saved or at least reduce the problem of high CO2 levels in the atmosphere considerably. These are good ideas. I think we should pursue them. But optics also matter. And if the publishing industry is just going to, on the one hand, decry what other industries are doing, for example, the travel industry, and then not look at its own behavior, I think there's a bit of a problem there. Publishing not only consumes a lot of paper, but it publishes a lot of work that, in my opinion, probably shouldn't be published in the first place. The quality of it isn't good, and I think people will start to have to think about whether what they are putting out into the world really makes sense. Is it good enough as art? Is it successful enough as entertainment? A lot of books just don't sell. The majority of them don't sell. They get printed up and they just molder. They go into landfill. The other issue that I'd like to discuss is that publishing is not just about books. It's very tightly integrated with a world promotional, a world advertising system, very much geared around literary festivals, book tours, and so forth. And that takes a lot of energy. It consumes a lot of CO2. The publishing industry, ironically, despite all the criticism that it levels at the aviation industry, is tightly intertwined with it at the upper levels because of these book tours and festivals and conferences, etc. So these are questions that I think need to be addressed honestly, and if there are people who have comments they want to leave below, I hope that they will.